Welcome to my new series, Top 5, Top 10, and Tier List. The point is to help you figure out which ships are great for you. And welcome to my new series, Top 5, Top 10, and Tier List. The point is to help you figure out which ships are great for what you want to do in the game. We'll mostly talk about ships that are currently in game. If we do talk about a ship that is still in concept, just be aware that it is theory crafting. And remember, digital ships are imaginary. Digital ships are imagine necessary. Before we start, I am giving away an account with an Avenger Titan with a Stella Fortuna weapon. I'm also giving away a 400 eye skin and a 600 eye skin for a total of not one, not two, but 3 prizes. To enter the contest, make sure you're subscribed to Billionaire Ninjas, leave a comment on at least one video, and like or dislike this video. When you win, I will verify you through social media, so go and follow the Billionaire Ninjas page at Ninjas Leap on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. The 3 winners for each contest will be announced at the end of March 2024 and will have 2 weeks to claim their prize. The first person to verify gets to choose the best prize. So although you have 2 weeks, you'll want to reach out fast. So make sure you're watching every video as soon as possible to be the first to grab the grand prize. Now to the content. For this one, I am trying something different. I am talking about my big list of ship manufacturers. So I'm doing this in a little bit different way. So there is some incredible lore out there. I said in my other video, go check out Astropub if you want to get deeper into the lore. This one, I am really just talking about my favorite manufacturers with just a little bit of lore sprinkled on top. The first video was counting down from 10 to 6, and this is the second, which is counting down from 5 to 1. So just make sure you check out both videos for the full list. Now let's get to it. Number 5. Roberts Space Industries. Roberts Space Industries is officially formed in 2038 on Earth by a young and enterprising inventor named Chris Roberts. He established the core tenets of the company's philosophy long before he began working on his first creation. Roberts Space Industries is a multinational corporation that designs, manufactures, and sells spaceships, vehicles, ship components, and spacesuits. It is one of the oldest modern human space corporates that stretches back all the way to mankind's first steps into the stars. RSI was responsible for the development of the quantum drive that ushered in the colonization of the galaxy. To quote Chris Roberts, learn from the past, reach for the future, fuel innovation, cultivate talent, always be relevant. Roberts Space Industries, what can I say? It's RSI, folks. It has to make the top 5. I mean, they just make so many ships, and so many of them are good. In fact, one of my favorite ships in the game, the Polaris, is made by the RSI manufacturer. So it's really hard not to put them in the top 5. I mean, they have the Constellation series, which just might be the best ship series in the game. I don't know. I think Crusaders, M2A2 C2 series is really good. So, they might be. They're up there, though. They're definitely in the top 3 for best ship series in the game. And then, wait, they have another one in the top 3, the Zeus line. The Zeus line of ships is awesome. They are like some of the best advanced starters that you can get, if you can even call them that. They might not even be starters. Some of those could be in-game ships when you really look at them. So RSI, great manufacturer. I love their design language. So that's why they are number 5. On to the next one. Number 4. Origin JumpWorks GmbH. Origin JumpWorks is a spaceship and engine manufacturer of high quality and luxury products. Their headquarters is based in Terra. If it is possible for a company to merge class and sophistication with the sheer risk of spaceflight and the cold-blooded nature of interstellar dogfighting, Origin JumpWorks GmbH comes the closest. The company's extensive array of high-end spacecraft is known for their sleek and sophisticated lines. Similarly, they have cultivated an exclusive customer base from the rich and the powerful. As Origin's perfectly manicured salesman eagerly pointed out, selecting an Origin design doesn't just mean buying a ship, it means choosing a lifestyle. So, I really tried to kick Origin out of my top 5. It's the only one that's in my top 5. As a matter of fact, it's the only one on my list that I actively tried to push off of the list. But as I was trying to push it off the list, it kept climbing the list. So I started it at number 10, and then every time I tried to kick it off, I had to compare ships for what I needed to do in the game or what the ship itself could do in the game, and it just kept climbing. And part of the reason I didn't want it to be in my top 5 is because of what Origin represents. Origin is the luxury for the rich and powerful, and I'm kind of like anti the entire idea of the whole rich and powerful thing. So I was really trying to push it out, but it just turns out they just make some really excellent spaceships. And I mean, you got the 890 Jump, the best luxury ship in the game. It's also the only capital luxury ship as of right now, unless you count the Band of Merchantmen, which I think will end up counting as luxury, but it's not built for that purpose, right? It doesn't have, the same amount of guest rooms and doesn't have a pool in it, that type of stuff. Then you have, jumping all the way back down to the small, the 135C is one of the most underrated starter ships in the game. It's extremely cheap and it has a lot of capability. The 315P, one of the most underrated advanced starters in the game. It's highly capable of smuggling, and it's a little exploration ship. It's amazing. 400 Eyes, probably the best single player daily driver, because not only is it a single player daily driver, but you can add 2 people to it anytime you want, and they add to the capability, but you don't really lose a whole lot just from not having those extra 2 people. Not to mention, it's a beautiful ship. It has a dedicated bay for a vehicle, has 42 SCU of cargo. It's fast as hell. I mean, it's a great ship. And then there's the 600i, which is one of my favorites. I think it's the best multi-crew daily driver, or at least it will be after the rework. So I'm saying this title as if it's already had the rework, that it's the best multi-crew daily driver. I think the 600i is also going to be one of the best exploration ships in the game, and I think that part of the 600i is going to be underrated. Now, I'm talking about the 600i Explorer, not the 600i Touring, but I do think the 600i Touring does give the 890 Jump a run for its money because of the value of the 600i, and I am still talking post-rework for the 600i Touring. So, for Origin, again, I tried to push it out of the top 5. I tried to push it out of the top 10, and it ended up number 4. So that should tell you about the quality of Origin ships. All right, on to the next one. We're going to the top 3, folks. Number 3, Musashi Industrial and Starflight Concern, otherwise known as MISC. The Musashi Industrial and Starflight Concern is a human spacecraft manufacturer. It was founded in 2805 in an arranged business merger between the failing Hato Electronics Corporation and the Musashi Lifestyle Design Unit spin-off of Acorn Limited. The merger made smart use of Hato's extensive network of large-scale production facilities and Musashi's reputation for design genius. MISC is based on Saisei in the Centauri system. Corporate offices are located there, as well as an impressive central dealership facility that is fully open to the public. MISC is also known for their especially ergonomic factories, with every spacecraft piece assembled robotically with expert precision. Fully modular, identical production lines have been established on dozens of worlds. MISC, if you followed me for a long time, then you know that this is probably the biggest surprise out of all of these. This is probably going to be the biggest surprise. If the next one isn't the biggest surprise, then this one will be the biggest surprise. So I specifically said in one of my videos that I wasn't really a big fan of MISC and their design language. And part of the reason I said that, I think I was in the Hull C when I said that. So part of the reason I said that is it's hard to judge it because you look at the Endeavor, you can't really see that in game. The Odyssey, can't really see that in game. The Prospector, I don't particularly like the way it looks internally. And yeah, that just really leaves the whole series, right? And I was thinking about it and I was like, well, somebody in the comments was like, hey, take a second look at it. I took a second look and I realized that I really do like MISC. It's just really the Prospector that kind of sent me down that road of not really liking them. And the Hull C, after taking a second look and actually, spending some time with it, the design is actually very well done inside the Hull C. I'm not sure what I was seeing before. Maybe I just was closed to it just because I don't like the mail slot, mail slot idea. So I think that's probably what was really hurting me, is like I don't like seeing the ships with the mail slots. But at the same time, I don't think the mail slot is going to, I can't say that the mail slot reduces the rest of the ship so much that it should not be on the list, because I think I was so blinded by the mail slot that I just couldn't see the rest of the ships. And the rest of the ship, when you get inside of a MISC ship, you can tell it is very well designed. And that's mostly the interiors. But I also realized I love the way the Odyssey looks. I love the way the Endeavor looks. The whole C, I think, is a little too phallic shaped, right? But I started realizing like the idea of these ships, and the Endeavor is one of my favorite ships in the game. I think it's going to be the modularity king when it's all said and done. I think the Odyssey is the best explorer in the game. So it's not just the design of these ships, it's also the quality and the utility of these ships, right? The Hull C is probably one of the most useful ships in the entire game because it just carries cargo from point 1 to point 2, point A to point B, right? And it carries a ton of it. And it used to be extremely cheap. It's not cheap anymore. But they also have the Hull E, which carries the most cargo of any ship in the game. And I mean, good luck affording 96,000 SCU of cargo. That's absolutely insane. But when I think of the possibilities, I think of Misk. I think of like Misk is just it. To me, it represents what is possible to do in the game, right? Whether it's modularity, exploration, it's cargo, it's mining, like they just seem like they have their finger in everything, and I think that's pretty awesome. So yeah, that's why they're number 3. On to the next one. Number 2. Drake Interplanetary is a human spacecraft manufacturer that designs, manufactures, and sells spaceships in the Star Citizen universe. It is headquartered in Odessa, Borea, Magnus. It is the 5th largest spacecraft producer in human space. Drake was founded in 2845 by Jan Dredge to produce the Cutlass medium fighter for militia use. Drake has cultivated its image since then to appeal to those seeking less conventional designs. Their ships have a characteristically robust and geometrical design that utilizes many low-tech materials. Drake's target group also includes militias and pirates. The former CEO, Jan and John Dredge, cultivated the outlaw image from the beginning of the company, which raised controversies about Drake's responsibility for pirate-related crimes. So yeah, if Misk isn't the one that surprises you the most, it might actually be Drake. And this wasn't some attempt to be fair to everybody, because I think what I actually was trying to do was just actually give each one of them a chance. You know, I was trying to give each one of them a chance. Like, let me actually look at the designs of these ships. And what happened with Misk is kind of the same thing that happened with Drake, except less so about the looks of the ship and more so about the utility of the ships. So Drake has the Cutter, which I think is the best starter in the game. If you're going to start Star Citizen and you're not trying to get an advanced starter or some crazy expensive ship, and you want to earn from point A to all the way up to a Javelin, you know, the Cutter is the best starter in the game. When I think about when I do get up to that level and I can afford a Javelin, well, you don't have to pick the Javelin because of Drake. There's the Kraken Privateer. It's the best carrier in the game. If not the Kraken Privateer. It basically makes it to where if you have a Banu Merchantman, you could sell it because it does most of what a Banu Merchantman can do. Then you have the Corsair, which is currently the DPS king as of 3.22.1. The Caterpillar, which is the modularity king. So it's like they just make ships that are extremely useful. And you can't forget about the Cutlass, right? The Cutlass is the one ship that if you buy it at the beginning of the game, you might still have it at the end of the game and it would still be just as useful. There's not a whole lot of ships that fit that. There's one ship that I do think will fit that more than the Cutlass, and that's part of my number 1. But I mean, Drake just has it all. And this mind you, I still don't particularly like the interiors of Drake's ships. They don't do anything for me, but they are still my second favorite. And so that should just tell you the utility of Drake's ships is just so high that it could still be my second favorite manufacturer. And I don't even like the way some of the interiors look. Actually, most of the interiors. So yeah, Drake Interplanetary, that's my number 2. Number 1. Before we do number one, I got to give a shout out to Kruger Intergalactic. I'm not going to go into their stuff, but I never really paid attention to Kruger Intergalactic because I was like, oh, they just have some snubs and they're in Constellation series, and I didn't even own a Constellation series, so I was like, well, I don't even care about those. But I have to say, I went, looked at the snubs, the P-52 Merlin and the P-72 Archimedes, and they are actually quite excellent ships, especially the P-72. The P-72 is an absolutely amazing ship. So the Kruger Intergalactic gets my honorable mention. You can put it at number 11, whatever you want. But Kruger Intergalactic, that P-72, it's got 4 weapons on it. It's one of the fastest ships in the game. The only thing is, if it had a jump drive, I'd drive that thing everywhere. And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful looking ship. I never really just looked at it. It's a beautiful ship. And I happen to have an Emerald, so it's even more beautiful. So yeah, shout out to Kruger Intergalactic. But back to my number 1, which is Aegis Dynamics. Aegis Dynamics is a spacecraft and spacecraft component manufacturer. They are known for their UEE military ships. Aegis Dynamics was founded from a merger between Earth-based Aegis Macrocomputing and Davian-based Dynamic Production Systems, with the explicit goal of constructing naval spacecraft. The firm was favored by Ivar Messer and thus grew to prominence during the First Tavaran War. During the Messer era, Aegis craft became synonymous with the ruthless, oppressive regime. Under Hannah Chan, CEO from 2643 to 2708, Aegis developed the Javelin class, and Chan used her good relationship with Imperator Ilyana Messer IV to secure more contracts for the company. Aegis also established the Diamond Laminate Standard for cockpits, which improved the safety of spaceships. After the fall of the Imperator, most of Aegis' military contracts were stripped, and the company seemed destined for bankruptcy, with massive layoffs. However, the Aegis craft began to be adopted by civilians, repurposed for non-military uses. In turn, the firm has shifted, softening its image and focusing on civilian variants for their current generation designs. These days, Aegis only produces a few craft. The old Retaliator bombers have been repurposed for widespread use as a deep space transport or hauling vessel. The Idris frigate, named after the Battle of Idris IV, has been demilitarized for private ownership, even though entrepreneurial pirate packs have been known to spring for one. All right, Aegis. Yep, they're number 1. I was actually surprised. When I did this, my process was really just trying to look at the ships that they actually produced. I took a little bit of a look at their history, and I tried to kind of pull them from number 1 if I didn't like their history, or pull them from whatever number they were and try to push them up further up the list. But I made sure that the ships came first before the history of the company. And when I did that with Aegis, they just killed everybody. I mean, they have so many amazing ships that it's hard not to put them at number 1. And I'm hoping that they get dethroned at some point. I don't think Drake is gonna go towards the number 1 spot. I don't think there's gonna be any ships that like push them to number 1. I don't think Origin is gonna jump to number 1, but you know, considering they already have a lot of ships, RSI has the biggest chance of pushing up to number 1, just because, you know, they have a lot of ships and they have a nice history. You know, Banu, you know, they just don't have enough ships yet. Gattac, I like their design the most. But right now, I don't think anybody's touching Aegis. And yeah, they were a Messer, you know, they were part of that whole Messer mess. But yeah, they just make great ships. The Retaliator, I think, is probably the most underrated ship in the game. The Vulcan is the one that I told you the Cutlass is the only starter that could also be an in-game ship. Well, the Vulcan is probably better in that way because it is a repair ship. And when will you not need a repair ship? Now, you might not have any interest in repair gameplay, but if you bought this ship in the beginning of the game, you really don't need to get rid of it. You can keep it till the end of the game and it will still have its exact same usage as it did before. The Reclaimer, biggest moneymaker as of 3.22.1. Just by large and far, it's the biggest moneymaker. I mean, if you're really good at some, you know, ERTs or VHRTs, I mean, you might be able to pull some money in, you know, because you might be pulling in some cargo and taking it with you, but I mean, it's just incredible. The Idris might just, I mean, what can I say? It might just be the best ship in the entire game. We don't know yet. After a walkthrough of it, I'm not 100% sure. I have to walk through Banu Merchantman to make that final decision. But as of right now, I think the Aegis is the best ship in the entire game. But just good luck affording it. But yeah, I think it's the best ship in the game, and it's not even finished yet. So I can't wait to see the finished product. The Gladius, the best light fighter in the game. I mean, I've tried it with the Arrow. I tried it with the Hawk. I mean, the Gladius just puts everything else to shame. I mean, the Kartual and Santak Yad, they have some really amazing speed and maneuverability, but just the Gladius's guns and missiles, they just outpace everything. It's so well balanced that it's hard to pick anything better as the best light fighter. So Aegis Dynamics, I mean, they get the #1 spot just because they just have their ships. I mean, there's at least 6 or 7 categories where they're in the top 2 or top spot of best ship for this purpose. So it's really hard not to put them at #1. So yeah, what are your top 10? Let me know in the comments below. I really want to know what's your top 10 or your top 5 ship manufacturers and why. I think that's why we do these types of lists. We do these types of lists so people can, start a conversation about which ones they like, which ones are the best, and hopefully we can all just figure it out together. I do think that you kind of have to justify why yours is the best, but at the same time, you really don't. It's your opinion. So whatever you come up with, I'd love to see it in the comments below. But that's it for this one. Thanks for spending your time with us. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.